How's it going, my fellow Kryptonians? And it feels good to say welcome back to a Superman and Lois breakdown, recap, and review for what felt like kind of another finale episode, which does make me think, considering this season was originally meant to have 13 episodes, I believe earlier this year in February it was given 2 more in addition to another series on the CW called Walker. But that would make next episode technically the last episode originally. But yeah, either way, it just feels like it's kind of getting, there's been a few episodes that have felt finale-ish, and now here's another one, and yet the story is still continuing on. But anyway, let's dive straight into this. Like the video if you do go on to enjoy it. By the way, I'm sorry that it's out today, but I had to do that Titans trailer breakdown. I'm very hyped for that, and hey, I knew you guys would stick around, hopefully. So let me know what you thought of this episode, all your theories and opinions on what I'm about to say. But yeah, let's get on with this. And the episode picked up with John Henry Irons, looking at his younger sister, except this world's version, because we can't forget how John is from another Earth. I think you all will remember that one. And that is when he gets the call from Lois at the very end of last episode, in where she thinks Superman may have turned, and as we know, John Henry Irons has been jumping at the chance to take out this Earth Superman, albeit that, obviously, you know, he came round. But it seems that as soon as he got the opportunity again in this episode, he was like, oh my god, when can I do it? When? I just felt really bad for Superman. Obviously, that's what they were trying to get across, but it was just really done very well. I felt Tyler Hoechlin did a great job at his screaming faces. I don't know what more to say. It was just epic. It felt like the stakes were still high, even when you knew that things were obviously going to pan out. Now, there's only one thing, unless I'm being really silly, I felt like they didn't make it crystal clear in the previous episode that Clark, or Superman, if you will, was being injected with a new mind, and what we learned in this episode is that it is Zod. Because initially we heard Edge say, so be it, delay the inevitable, but you will fade as this new mind comes to light. Not even Superman is strong enough to resist the will of Zod. And I thought, oh blimey, they're going there. It was kind of, I will talk about this a little bit more later, but it was kind of funny. It's like, oh, they're bringing Zod in, and I can imagine that makes some people excited, but then some people may roll their eyes, not out of, you know, not appreciating it, but it's like, oh, we're going back to Zod, like, can't they find maybe something new? And it's quite interesting how they kind of went there, but they didn't really, because, yeah, Zod didn't really come to full fruition. But, yeah, as I said, in the last episode, when Superman was being, like, hit with all the kind of lasers, if you will, they didn't explicitly explain that they were putting another Kryptonian mind into him. It was just that he was being subjected to pain until he cracked. But, hey, no, they were putting a mind into him. Of which I do have to say, and I don't mean this in a massive critical way, it's making me think, with regards to the extra 2 episodes they got, that, you know, was this all technically originally planned? Because now I'm thinking, well, on the other Earth of John Henry Irons' Earth, what actually turned that black-suited Superman? I know we're going through this again, but not too deeply. It's just that, did he just choose to go to the Morgan Edge because he didn't have Lois Lane and the family? Or did he also have Zod put into him on that Earth? But it's not really mega explained. Ultimately, bottom line is just making me think, with all of the finale-esque writing and climax being built up to in recent episodes, if, like, it really was going to end around about somewhere here, but maybe they reshuffled scenes and narrative about and whatnot. You get what I'm trying to say. I just feel like there's a few questions that made me think, sometimes. But yeah, either way, like, I'm still really loving all of this. Now at the Kent farm, we have Lois completely zoned out. I think she's a lot more worried than what she's letting on. We have the boys really wondering what to do, and Lois is trying to reassure them that he's going to be okay, and how, you know, the dad has been in worse spots for the last 20 years. She's had to deal with this, but as I said, she's obviously thinking, oh crap, like, despite everything we've been through and got through, this might be the one that actually gets Superman. Of course, General Lane arrives. He's trying to find out the location of Superman. Lois does mention that Morgan Edge did mention a desert with regards to his fortress, so they adjusted the search grid, but we know that really is down to the boys to find the fortress in the desert a little bit later on. But we also did have that moment when Lois was breaking down in front of her dad. Once again, Elizabeth Tulloch, I feel like she did an exceptional job this episode, because she really did have to portray a Lois who was really on the edge. No pun intended there. Because, you know, this is pivotal. She's never really, when you're so used to having a man of steel around who can't really be affected other than by kryptonite, which isn't exactly the most common thing thing to come by, you must kind of get used to sometimes, despite the 20 years of close calls that she mentioned, it is still something that, you know, I think would be quite hard to convey across screen, even though your job as an actor. But yeah, just want to praise Elizabeth Tulloch again. She had some great scenes in this episode, especially the one where she had to tell John Henry Irons about Clark being Superman, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. Now I'm going to talk about all the Kyle stuff, like right here, because it was more or less one cohesive story that was just scattered, kind of almost balance and time out everything else that was going on. I can already imagine comments from more of the critical people of the Lang storyline, which I do understand. Like, I personally really like it, but I do see where other people are coming from. So as I was saying, I can imagine some people were like, oh, when we got to a Lang's scene, it kind of slowed down the pacing of what they were doing with everything else. But in my opinion, the way I look at that is that it complemented it. Like, you got the really, really super interesting stuff with Morgan Edge, you know, the boys trying to find their dad, Superman like in massive pain trying to resist Zod. But then, you know, sometimes you do need a little bit of a breather about characters they're trying to make you care about, of which, you know, has worked with me, with Kyle, and I do kind of feel for him because he, as we've realized, despite him ignoring Lois, and it kind of came across annoying at times at the beginning of the season, he's wanted nothing but the best for this town, and he tried doing that, but he was obviously fooled by Edge, and now all of the people of Smallville, who are meant to be this tight-knit community, have just kind of turned their backs on them. I do get how, obviously, this will, through Lois trying to reassure them that they will change their minds, it's probably going to be obvious that she's going to do a big article at the end of all of this, and everyone's going to read it, and probably welcome the Lang family back into Smallville, but they had to endure kind of vandalism this episode. I felt bad for Kyle, because I feel like the actor behind him not only is really good, but the character is quite an interesting one that kind of, you know, when you do a Superman family show, the reason why a family like this is necessary is because, A, obviously the Langs have quite a big Superman history in general, well, like Lana Lang in particular, but it also offers the Smallville kind of community side, and if you're not going to do every single character in Smallville having screen time in an episode, you need to choose a family, right? What one more relevant than the Lang, or should I say the Cushing family, and obviously it's very tied to the story, so I'm personally happy with it. But yeah, other than that, there wasn't really too much to say other than it kind of came full circle with, at the beginning of the season, this family obviously have some fractures, but, you know, they were kind of spraying water over each other with the hose and whatnot, and when they were cleaning the vandalism of Get Out of Smallville on their house that had been sprayed there, it was just nice and wholesome to see. Once again, with these scenes kind of being scattered throughout this episode, and it felt like quite a few knots were being tied off. It really does feel like that, because that felt like a whole circle for that family. And then you had moments like at the end of the episode, yeah, and yeah, I know I'm jumping to it, but it's relevant to the point that I'm talking about now. It's like, blah, 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 blah. General Lane talking to Lois, it's like, you know, and I'm sure you guys will get Leslie Law within the week, you know, my money's on that, and then the DOD will be moving out. It just felt like it was wrapping up. So it's not a massive critique, because I don't have a problem with this. It just feels like, if it feels like the season's kind of ending now and then we get 2 more episodes, I hope these kind of extra episodes that we're getting this season don't feel like it's gonna kind of drag out what felt like the natural organic ending. I guess that's the way to put it. I hope the next couple of episodes don't feel too artificial, because at the end of the day, they were given 2 more episodes when they would have originally kind of outlined their script for the original 13, but obviously, you know, they would have edited that out and fleshed it out for an extra 2, but you get my point. One extra note onto that, even to the point of where that scene with Morgan Edge at the very end of the episode, it kind of makes me feel like that was the mid-credits of like, okay, that threat is neutralized, but like, oh, maybe he can come back one day, because he's hearing the voices, and we'll get onto why I think he's hearing those voices, and he smiles. Like, you could have almost left it there, and like, he's not going to get out there and then, but he's got something up his sleeve to kind of maybe come back one day. But obviously, they're now going to address that in the next couple. But I could be completely wrong about that, but they could have ended it there, like this whole season, if they wanted to. I really enjoyed the scenes of the brothers this episode, because we've got to a point, and I've said this over multiple reviews now, but I'm hoping that a lot of the audience who were very critical of Jordan and whatnot don't find him... It's like the whininess aspect and critique, I feel, is out the window, because now it's kind of like the best versions of themselves that I feel like every audience member has come to enjoy, and that is when, you know, we have Jonathan being the kind of older brother looking out for his younger brother, kind of Jordan feeling insecure about maybe not even be able to find his dad, and he's only just got these powers to a point of where he's not having a migraine every 2 seconds. But I like Jonathan is one of my, if not Is he my favorite character? I don't know. I just really like him because he's really supportive and he was giving the faith, bolstering his brother up. And he's obviously the one who isn't with powers right now, which makes him an interesting character. And I think we all know eventually they're going to play around with Jonathan also getting powers. But in the time being, you know, I kind of really like it the way it is. Let's talk a little bit about Steel or John Henry Irons this episode. There was a lot I enjoyed about it, but there's a little bit that I'm kind of skeptical about. I feel like I still haven't properly made my mind up about it, and we'll get to that. Also, this just kind of makes me think, apparently within the... I didn't watch... I fell off Supergirl on, like, Season 2, but apparently there have been references to this Clark, Tyler Hoechlin's Clark, having fought Zod before, but we can't forget that Crisis has happened, so I am guessing that this is a blank slate, and this is his first interaction with Zod. John Henry Irons is very up for killing Superman, and you can understand his motivations for doing so totally. It's like, even though he's kind of gone back on the accepting aspect he had of quite a few episodes back of where he let Clark live. Obviously, this has just brought everything back since they have now kind of low-key confirmed, even through Lois herself, to him, the lines at the very end of the last episode saying, I think Superman's turned. Well, that's him, all green lights to go. Like, we can't take this chance. It took 7 minutes to destroy Metropolis on my Earth. You know, it's happened. My point has been proven. So he's probably... I have no issues with his kind of urgency to kill Superman. And of course, at the same time, we have General Lane being a little bit shady. Can't really blame him. Saying behind Lois's back, like, Lois doesn't notice, but I'm rounding up every weapon I've got. Project 7734's arsenal for when the time comes. But as we learned from John Henry Irons, he has something else that might be a bit more effective, which is a red solar kind of rocket, which obviously, as was pointed out, completely depowers a Kryptonian to the point of where, like, they could get shot by a bullet or hit by a baseball bat, get knocked out. It leaves them completely powerless. This was around the time we got the expanded, or should I say even the entire flashback from John Henry Irons' battle with his black-suited evil Superman. And I feel like it still isn't answered how he got to this Earth, because it was really cool. Like, I loved seeing the flashback of where the Superman was smashing the ship again, and then that red wave comes, but many people thought that that could be antimatter, and even I was thinking, yeah, maybe, but like, if you think about it, like, zoom yourself out of that kind of picture there, antimatter would have just destroyed that ship. But, like, this was... And it didn't properly, completely resemble the antimatter wave from Crisis. Plus, it opened a portal into our Earth, Earth Prime. So what the heck was that? I don't know if they're ever going to give us an explanation, which is kind of frustrating a little bit, because I want to know. But I would say that that wasn't antimatter, because at the end of the day, that would have... Well, you know what antimatter does, so why would he teleport through an antimatter wave? But then we go back to the scenes of Clark still resisting Zod. As I said, loved these scenes from Tyler Hoechlin. I loved how he flew out of the fortress almost as if to get some air, and he was calling out to Jordan. But as we kind of know, looking at it in retrospect now, he was calling out to Jordan so Jordan could get John Henry Irons there to ultimately kind of kill him, because he knew that he couldn't hold on too much longer, and Superman would rather sacrifice himself than let what was going to happen destroy the world. And that would be obviously with Zod taking over and just completely frying the crap out of everything. This is when John Diggle enters the episode, and I have to say, the first thing I thought with the cinematography differences and whatnot between this and the typical CW shows is it's just weird to see Diggle in high production. And I know there's this big debate, apparently. Like, I wasn't even aware of this just because I thought it was so obvious, and not to be rude to people who didn't know this was the case, but some people apparently thought that Superman and Lois wasn't connected to the Arrowverse. It's like, what? What? Diggle arrived with the tech that was requested by General Lane, which was, Argus was set up to make that rocket available for John Henry Irons. Lois in this moment is very pissed. Obviously, it's just a precaution for now, but Lois still isn't taking that for an answer, and neither is Diggle, because he said, accept the part where you lied. And another thing that I find super, super interesting, and this is where I feel like the Arrowverse really needs to get its arse in gear with the continuity between these shows a little bit, because we heard John Henry Irons saying, are you really going to gamble on the fate of another world? And then Diggle was like, wait, you're from another world? You and I, General, are gonna really need to have a serious conversation. So it's just weird. Like, we still don't have Team Flash, for example, knowing about the existence of the multiverse after Crisis, because they think that everything just came onto one Earth, but for example, there isn't. We've got a Titans Earth, we've got a Doom Patrol Earth, there's Stargirl on Earth 2. But now Diggle knows before even those people that there are other Earths still. It's just weird. Like, things still aren't properly lining up in that way with, like, the overall kind of world of the Arrowverse post crisis. But now we're leading up to the moment where Jordan tells General Lane about the Badlands because of when Superman reached out to Jordan. General Lane says to Lois that he has to treat this as any other global threat, so he is indeed sending John in to where they are located. And this is when we got that amazing scene I was on about earlier, when Lois had no other option but to try one more thing to appeal to John Henry Irons, and has to reveal the identity of Superman. And this is what I mean, the delivery and the way that was kind of filmed was perfect. It was just, I just saw such Lois Lane in that moment. The definitive Lois Lane. And it's just like, what more can this woman do other than do this in this moment to try and save the man she loves? I just love it. It is, it's giving me chills. I'm so, I know I go on about this every review, but I'm just so happy with the casting in this show. Thing is though, is as kind of sentimental and sincere and delicate as this scene was, it is also low-key funny at the same time, because then you have to like try and suspend your disbelief of John's shocked Pikachu face at Clark Kent is Superman, but obviously it couldn't be more obvious to the audience. But yeah, throw that aside, it's still like I was really engrossed in the acting and delivery from Elizabeth Tulloch's Lois Lane. We have Lois literally begging John not to do this, and there was many other things said by John which I felt like was borderline kind of insensitive to a Lois who's really panicking about her husband who's about to die. But he had such conviction, and I don't blame him, because like everything he was trying to do this whole season, yeah, other people were telling him this isn't your Superman, but then it actually did happen. This guy's going to be more convicted than ever to do what he set out to do. But I'm still just not so sure about how I feel like there's a complete contrast as to how he was trying to break through to Superman. I just don't feel like that character would have tried to have done that, honestly, even despite all of the attempts they tried to do to change his mind through Lois. And then we had Jonathan come in, by the way, amazing scene, amazing acting from Jordan, the actor behind Jonathan. Yes, his name is Jordan, it gets confusing. But yeah, that was such a sweet scene. I just want you to know this guy you're about to kill, he's a really good dad too. That kind of broke me. Around about this time as well, in the Desert Fortress, Zod did indeed break through Superman's mind, and we literally have Zod on the show. It's kind of crazy. We have Zod in the show for just a few fleeting moments this episode. He says, "You've done it, Zeta." And this is when John Henry Irons comes in Steel mode, so I guess we're going to refer to him as Steel. I thought the CGI was pretty clean for this. Zod arrives. We're no longer going to call him Superman in this moment, so Zod literally arrives. Lois is literally looking like, oh my god, same with John, but they all have the shocked Pikachu faces on. Zod attacks Steel. In this moment, Lois is completely kind of zoned out, almost catatonic through how much, like, this is probably devastating her. And this is where I find things a little bit iffy for me, because John in this episode had so much conviction, as I keep repeating, to, you know, I've already explained it. It almost shouldn't really be questioned. But in this moment also, he had further proof that Superman had already changed. Like, we had literally had Zod saying to him that you won't stop what's coming, none of you can stop this. So he knew and had it confirmed that, okay, Superman had been taken over in this moment. General Lane gives him the go-ahead, and he's fully authorized to retaliate, weaken him, and take him out. And this is when Zod begins to pull Steel's head off, but then Lois says you can't beat him, you need to make him remember who he is, and that is when Clark begins to snap out of Zod mode. Steel takes this opportunity to smack him with his hammer and kind of like incapacitate him temporarily. We even have Superman basically begging John Henry Irons to kill him because that's the only way. He says, you gotta do it. All I'm saying is, I just would have thought John in this mode, especially when Superman's asking him, saying he can't hold on, it would give him more conviction, more than ever, to pull the trigger. But this is when John Henry Irons changed his mind. He says, Clark, Lois sent me to help you. She still believes in you. I met your boys. They still believe in you. So look, I get what they were going for. And maybe I am just being too, one-sided on this. Maybe it is all about how the other people changed his mind. And maybe Jonathan was the straw that broke the camel's back with how he kind of felt bad for the kid after Lois had tried begging him. And then that was it. And he decided to change his mind. But with that aside, though, I do want to say I did still love this moment. I loved the choices of words used in the script from John Henry Irons. Remember who you are, you fight back, damn it. I felt like it was all filmed very well, delivered very well. We had the memories flashing on screen. Superman screams and then he just collapses, but he's all good. And I also kind of like how, you know, it's this internalized battle between Superman and Zod, even though we didn't fully get Zod, and I don't really mind that with, there's a lot of Zod in recent Superman years. It's kind of as I said, like a in-the-mind battle. Ultimately, though, Zeta Rose like, it's time. And this is very ambiguous, and I can't figure it out, because This is, yeah, of course, in typical Zeta-Ro dickhead-like fashion, he puts his son down, says you had one mission and veered from it because you're weak. You will not veer from it any longer. Now go complete what you're sent here to do. He flew up. We had John Henry Irons steal, Superman going after him, but we had ultimately Edge lasering it to blow it up. And it's kind of obvious, especially with the ending scene, that the voices and all of those minds are now in Edge. But to what end? Because obviously this is plan B. But I still can't figure out, it's like, so what if you've got all of these other minds in you? What's the big plan here? But he's still smiling at the end of the episode. So clearly there is a way that he thinks he's still got to completely do this, but I just don't know what the link is. Does, for some reason, putting all of those minds into just his mind and maybe grant him overpoweredness, if that makes sense? Maybe that is it, because think about it. If you put the mind of a singular Kryptonian in a human in Smallville, one of the natives, they get Kryptonian powers. So what will that do if you put all of the minds, or even, let's just say one mind, into a Kryptonian? They will get powers as well, technically, but maybe if you get more and more minds, it just stacks upon the powers? That's a theory. I could be completely wrong with that, but other than that, it's just left ambiguous. We know there's a plan B. He's in a Kryptonian cell, and everyone thinks the threat's over, but clearly there's something completely up the sleeve there, and it's, you know, it completely pertains to still taking over this world, and Zeta-Ro and Tau-Ro, aka Edge, are still completely confident about that. The only, like, constructive criticism I have for the whole Zod thing now, it's just come to me, is that you would have thought, like, if they found out that the natives of Smallville are the only people it works on, in terms of, you know, like, getting somebody back, surely the first priority of Zeta-Ro and Tau-Ro would have been to, instead of bringing, let's just say, Leslie La, why not get Zod? That should have been your Leslie La, because she's still out there in the wind, right? Why wait to put him in Superman? I'm just thinking, like, at least that way you could have had Zod back at your side, and do you see what I'm going with there? But they waited to put it into Superman. It's not a massive critique, it's just like, it's such an oversight of Tau-Ro and Zeta-Ro. You would have put Zod, one of the leading dudes of Krypton, in one of the natives to strengthen the hierarchy of the evil Kryptonians, I suppose. I did find that scene funny as well, but yet again, finale kind of feels when he says, you could have ruled with me as my brother, instead I will bury you in the ashes of this world, and Superman just punches him. They all discuss Morgan Edge is in the state-of-the-art military prison, he's never gonna hurt anyone again. I really like that line from General Lane saying, I'm glad you're better, Clark, I won't doubt you again. Big words coming from General Lane there. And then, right at the very end, we literally have Tau-Ro, aka Morgan Edge, sat in the little Kryptonian cell, like the one that Kyle was in, and he just smiles, hearing the whispering voices in his head. And I believe the final words were something like, you know, do what you were sent here to do, basically to take over. So my only theory to that is what I will repeat once more. Maybe through putting extra minds into a Kryptonian, we'll just stack upon the powers, and then that would be a problem because Superman's powerful, but I guess how is he going to take on somebody who has technically got the strength of him, but times 5 or 10 or God knows how many minds actually. You have to take into account how many bodies or minds are in him. So yeah, overall a good episode, and I'm wondering what is going to happen next week, and I've already briefly looked at the finale, and I may do a separate video on this. Let me know if you'd like to see that, but I believe the next episode is going to surround Clark talking about how when he let go, when he couldn't help it, it felt good, and I guess they kind of maybe... What I would find intriguing is if they combat through Zod being in Clark's mind in this new post-crisis canon, and apparently he's gone for good. I don't think it's as simple as that. I mean, maybe, I suppose, if you do overpower, kind of like a parasite or something, like, it would just dissipate, maybe. But I think even if that did happen and Zod is gone, it will leave this kind of residual energy, or kind of maybe imprint of his personality that maybe Clark still has to get through, in how he is still Superman, but after Zod went out of his mind, after being in his mind, he's maybe got some tendencies of kind of low-key kind of craving that kind of feeling, even though he knows it's wrong. That's the kind of vibes I'm getting from next week. Let me know what you thought about the John Henry Irons thing. Do you think that it was a completely natural and organic kind of change of mind after the fact that he was spoken to by Lois? Because I want to reiterate again, it's not like they didn't have set up for him changing his mind, but I'm just saying I felt like it happened a bit too quick, especially when Superman had already turned. I just felt like he would have done that. And also, I'm actually really intrigued as to how they're going to leave this. Like, are there going to be any really shocking twists and turns? Is something going to happen to maybe one of the family members? One of my big wants is maybe something shady happening with Jordan, Oh, not Jordan, sorry, Jonathan. Maybe some... I feel like there should be some incident, and that's been a big theory this season, like, maybe something's gonna happen to affect him. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to seeing what surprises they still have yet to give us towards the very end of this season. I'm gonna leave this video there, so I read all of your comments, so let me know them down in the comments below. As always, like this video if you did enjoy, and make sure you subscribe to never miss out on a future Superman and Lois video. Let me know if you want me to kind of theorize about the next episode in a mini kind of trailer breakdown video, because I'm kind of feeling like doing that. As always, check out the links in the top pinned comment, which is my comment. Click show more to expand it so you can see my Discord server, Twitter, and all the other links. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and it feels good to have Superman and Lois back. And I'll see you fellow Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.